caught up on things and all that part of
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the December 21st meeting of the Hyde Park Planning Board, our last of the year. Please take note of all the exits around the room in case of emergency, and now join me as we salute the American flag. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, and we want to wish everyone a very happy holiday season from up at the dais. The first item on the agenda is a continued public hearing for small O'Malley subdivision. This is a minor subdivision approval being sought for 5 lots at 148 Cream Street. May I get a motion to reopen the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Mr. Kohler, congratulations.
Thank you.
We've cleared up a lot of the points that were made all along the way, and this is made for a reduction in the number of conditions, but we're prepared to take action tonight. I believe you saw a copy of the resolution in advance.
I did. Thank you.
Any comments or questions from our consultants? Any comments or questions from the board?
Nope, this is very exciting.
Would anyone from the public like to speak about this application? There being none, make a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And this is Mr. Oliver's resolution.
Resolution to grant subdivision approval, Small O'Malley subdivision, resolution number 2021-55B. Whereas, now therefore be it resolved that the planning board finds that a proper case exists for requiring parks and playgrounds to be suitably located on the plat, and the park of adequate size cannot be located on the site, and the applicant shall be required to pay a fee for each new lot as set forth in the town's fee schedule to be deposited into the town recreation fund. Be it further resolved that the planning board finds that the proposed open space conservation area contains wetlands and is a habitat area for Blanding's turtles, a New York State endangered species. Conserving the land and implementing mitigation measures to limit disturbance will ensure that the regulated wetlands and Blanding's turtle habitat will be fully protected. Be it further resolved that the planning board hereby grants subdivision approval to the project as shown on the subdivision plat and authorizes the chair or his designee to sign the subdivision plat after compliance with the following conditions. 1, payment of all fees in escrow. 2, payment of recreation fee of $5,000 per lot for a total of $20,000 for 4 new lots. 3, approval by the attorney to the planning board and the town attorney of the open space deed restriction pursuant to section 96-9 of the town code, providing the town with the right but not the obligation to enforce the deed restriction. The deed restricted area shall include the wetland on lot 2. The applicant's attorney shall provide an undertaking that the deed restriction will be filed after the subdivision plat is filed. 4, revise the survey marker detail to state subdivision conservation protection area restrictions apply, and to delete the reference to Town of Hyde Park. 5, installation of survey markers designating the conservation area in accordance with the locations shown on the subdivision plat. 6, subdivision of the baseline report for the conservation area with photographs of existing conditions keyed to each of the monuments to the satisfaction of the zoning administrator. 7, Dutchess County Department of Behavioral and Community Health approval for methods of water supply and sewage disposal. 8, Dutchess County Department of Public Works conceptual approval for the driveway location. 9, the common driveway must be roughed into subbase to the satisfaction of the town engineer and the town zoning administrator. 10, approval by the attorney to the planning board of a common driveway easement and maintenance agreement and the undertaking from the applicant's attorney that the approved easement will be recorded after the plat is filed. The agreement shall include a maintenance schedule for the infiltration trench on sheet CD-1 and the maintenance of the sightline easement on lot 5. A meets and bounds description of the driveway easement and sightline easement shall be included in the agreement and shown on the subdivision plat. Be it further resolved that prior to the zoning administrator authorizing the issuance of the building permit for any structure on lots 2 through 5 shown on the subdivision plat, the applicant shall provide the zoning administrator with proof of recordation of the approved common driveway easement and maintenance agreement for conservation deed restriction.
Second.
Thank you, Chris. Any further discussion? I just want to throw in a little note here. Mr. Kohler, it's been a pleasure working with you. You've been super responsive to the board. And I also want to thank Ms. Franson as well as you, because we've never had that kind of marker topping. Instead, we've just used random things. So this should become a standard, I think, for the planning board, because it really does let you know where it is, et cetera. So I just want to thank you again.
Great, thank you.
Any other
Appreciate
comments? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The motion carries unanimously with 1 absent. Have a wonderful holiday, Dan.
Thank you. You as well.
And sorry to make you come out here just to hear us read. But
That's okay. I love wrangling with Route 9.
It's always fun.
Have a great night.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is a continued public hearing for Bellafield Phase 2, the final development plan. This is the property located across from the Culinary Institute. This has been in discussion for a while, as in a little over a decade. Making a motion to reopen the public hearing.
So moved?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Ms. Leibow's not here. Mr. Boudreau.
She has one.
I thought that was Kelly too. So the dark here, the glasses is like, okay.
So, great.
Oh, good.
And here's Ms. Ventile. So I just wanted to point out a couple of things in advance.
And here's Kelly.
And here's Ms. Leibow.
Send you an invite.
Ms. Leibow, I'm going to turn it over to you guys.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Quite an entrance.
I ran out to get something from my car real quick.
With a flourish,
Yes.
suitable to the hub.
In the morning.
Okay. Kelly Leibold with KRC Planning Consultants.
We can't hear.
Oh, you can't hear?
There you go.
There you go.
Larry, you want to? Kelly Leibold with KRC Planning Consultants.
Larry Boudreau with Belfield.
Jennifer Van Tile from Cuddy and Fader.
And, I'm sorry, and again, Tom Mulroy's on my cell.
Mr. Chairman, if you recall, we were before this board a few weeks ago, and we had discussed at great length the project and the changes that we had made to the plans, and we concluded that there were a few seeker items that remained that we continue to work on that we're going to provide to you. I think the board and its consultants is working on compiling a list of some of the outstanding items that they're looking for that and for site plan. In the meantime, sorry, I'm terribly out of breath. One of the, definitely need a New Year resolution to get in shape. One of the items that we had discussed was City Winery, and I think this board really loved the architecture that we had provided on the last plan, but there were some reservations about City Winery. We did go back and worked with the, our architects, Liscombe McCormick and Voorhees, as well as City Winery has their own architect, mostly for programmatic items, but has a certain vision of what they'd like the building to look like. And we had prepared this rendering, so we wanted to preliminarily show this to you tonight and just get some initial feedback from you as we continue to work on some of the other seeker items that we've discussed in the past. Tonight, we also were hoping to discuss our upcoming work. We are and have proposed and been working with the town engineer and your town's MS4 coordinator, Tad, on an amendment to the existing SWIP that's in place, the existing NOI, to include the removal of the trees that have been previously reviewed and approved. As you know, there's a window of opportunity that we're allowed to remove the trees, so between January 1st and March. So we've been working with Tad and Pete on developing a SWIP. That's an amendment. We're hoping tonight that this board can give whatever necessary acknowledgements are required to allow Tad and Pete, and I think the supervisor, to sign the MS4 paperwork, and we could proceed with that work. So tonight, again, we're hoping to talk about the City Winery to the extent that you'd like to, and then discuss the
Before we go to the City Winery architecture, because I want to have the board weigh in, as far as, so there's been sort of a cross-purpose of discussions at times, and I apologize for that. When we were looking at seeker, the seeker that we thought we were going to look at was seeker on the new final development plan. But actually, the SWIP amendment number 1, so we all recall that the SWIP was what was used for the clearing of the area for the hotel, the adjacent area, and then also the wastewater treatment facility, I believe. So the next amendment would be for not for phase 2, but for the area that phase 2 is under. So when we did the negative declaration a year ago, that contemplated that in the whole area of development, that some trees would be removed, et cetera, because you can't keep trees where buildings are going to go or sidewalks. So that negative declaration, in other words, really included the idea of the tree removal. And I think at a meeting about 6 weeks ago, I mentioned, or maybe 2 months ago, that Larry, Kelly, Pete, Tad, and I had met to discuss what they would do in terms of clearing the area for phase 2. And what we concluded was that the SWIP would go under 5-acre areas, but they would continue to, once they got that seeded and stabilized, then they would move on to the next 5 acres, the next 5 acres. They have to do this before March 30th because that's when the DEC regulation prohibits tree removal past that. So what our confusion was is they don't really need a secret determination on the final development plan in order to have Tad and Pete and the supervisor sign the SWIP. So I just wanted to acknowledge tonight that we've discussed this and that we're all okay with it. In addition, it's congruent with the secret findings we did because those are based on this kind of area of disturbance. All that noted, one of the things I want to remind people, and if there's anybody in the television viewing audience watching, this is not going to be just stumps. They're going to remove the tree trunks. They need to because that will help stabilize, because once they seed it, it needs to be mowed and taken care of. And if you recall, I think I was on one of my tirades that night saying, I wouldn't be a guest at the hotel if I had to look down at empty tree stumps. It would be like looking at Beirut or Kabul. So they need to have some control over this, and that's what this process is about. So anybody have any comments on the SWIP moving forward for the tree removal?
No, I just appreciate that explanation, and it helps to clarify it for me.
And Tad and Pete have gone to great lengths to work collectively with the team. I mean, we've got very, very detailed plans and so forth that,
We had some questions, just minor ones today about grading, but of course, there is no grading. You're just going to backfill the holes where the
Correct.
trunks have been.
Right,
So
correct.
The grading will occur once you actually get into the process and have your approval for final development plan.
correct.
So that's all this is about.
Yeah, the only limited grading is to build the sediment practice. That's it.
Right, that's right.
So that there's not excess sedimentation running off, et cetera.
Correct.
But, so it seems like we're okay up here, so I think you have papal dispensation, we'll call it, to proceed with moving on forward on the SWIP.
Very well.
Now, before we move on,
I was wondering what that was.
sorry, Ted does become grinchy this time of the year at some things, so at any rate, but yes, you have the Grinch's dispensation. So really what we're here to talk about tonight, because we're going to need, Bonnie's preparing a memo. I went through, working with Bonnie, with Tad and Pete, and myself, going through the detailed final development plans. We had an initial set that was submitted around November 1st, and we had corrective sheets that were submitted, but only those sheets, so I had to compare. Just for example, I think it's building 2,000, and the initial plan was 3 stories, and now it's 1 story, so I had to look to find things, so that's what we've been doing sort of comprehensively. I think I had 28 or 29 points. So at any rate, Bonnie I read her preliminary memo, so all of our comments are both related to final development plan, as well as anything to do with seeker. In terms of seeker, we're looking at the changes from the concept development plan, such as, say, or the approved concept development plan, where it showed a green roof, making note of changes, and then we'll look to see consistency with prior seeker findings, et cetera. So that needs to be worked out a little bit longer. Mr. Sotero is providing his points as well at the end of the week. Bonnie will incorporate all those, everybody's comments, plus mine. You guys have any comments, please get them to her. That way, next week early, we can provide a comprehensive memo to you guys, so you can first work on the seeker, because we should try to do that before the town board meets. They can't act on the variations
Correct.
without it.
Correct.
But then the others, this is a site plan like none of us have seen before because it's so big. And really honing in on things, I was like, wait, what is this? Why is the sidewalk stop there? So Kelly's heard some of this before, but we'll have it all in a comprehensive memo. And then once we issue that memo, I anticipate that we'll have some kind of offline meeting, because we'll want to, some of them, the way I wrote it, you'll need to see me say, right there, what does this do? It's very hard to keep referring to sheets because the sheets got renumbered too. So at any rate, we'll go through that. And let me just turn it over to Bonnie real quickly. Ms. Franson?
No, I think you've summarized it, essentially. I mean, we do have a memo, it's in draft form. It covers consistency with the original concept plan, SECRA, and then on each of the sheets, any kind of comments or questions we had. I have Michael's comments, and Pete, I believe you're going to get them this week, so I'm going to incorporate it so that we have just one comprehensive set, so we're not going back and forth.
Okay,
And you'll
good.
have that. And it, it may ask for some additional information, or, for instance, we have a view and a simulation of Main Street area, which has the mixed use north and south. But, one of my comments would be, and it's really up to the planning board, should there be some kind of visualization of the easterly area? Because there, it's now functioning more as a full road because of the way you have to now circulate around the buildings because they're one. And that back area does not have really much on the ground floor. It's because the entrance is really to the garages. So what does that look like? I don't know that that was originally anticipated to be as viewable because of the prior circulation. So it's almost a matter of disclosure. What is this going to look like? And to make sure everybody's aware so that, ultimately, when you do the seeker consistency and we get to concept plan decision, everybody fully knows and understands and can visualize what the changes were, which has been hard, even with just the elevations. I think some of the key areas would be useful. So those are the kinds of comments that we'll have, and you'll see
I want
them.
to leap in real quickly and point out that the landscaping is only trees. So when you see the blank featureless eastern sides of the buildings, and Bonnie is correct, if you can't find the angle parking, you're going to go back around and come back again, probably, or even park behind. But because there were no shrubs or anything else shown, I'm guessing that view would be softened by some shrubbery. But that's not, the landscaping plan isn't complete in that sense because it's only deciduous and evergreen trees. One of my comments as well is that the landscaping doesn't seem to be coordinated with the stormwater management practices because you have trees in the middle of stormwater detention basins, and the trees that are proposed there can't live in muck. They can't live in water. You do have trees proposed, Nyssa sylvatica, that could, Tupelo, common name. But so those are little details, but we want to make sure those are worked out as soon as possible so we can get to the final development plan approval. So thank you, Bonnie.
So we're looking forward to your.
I hope so.
And I think it just means that perhaps, again, at the Main Street area, the landscaping is different and the level of the need for it is different than, and had that area stayed sort of a courtyard, it wouldn't be as necessary. But now that it becomes more of a circulation route, you want to really make sure that the landscaping's beefed up. And so those are the kinds of comments, again.
Okay.
So I just have two quick questions, if I could. Just because the next few weeks are so challenging for everyone's schedule with the holidays, do you envision, most offices are closed, do you envision that you'll be able to get that to us early next week so we can prepare?
Yeah, I'm around next week. So we are off on Monday, Tuesday. Actually, we're going to have a meeting here on Wednesday with Victoria and Pete and myself. But I envision that if Pete gets me his comments, I'm still around, so I'll make sure to put them together so we can get them out sooner than later.
In other words, she's still working even though she's supposed to be on vacation.
Okay, so yeah, as soon as then we could get them, then we'll schedule accordingly. And then the second question that I have is, have you broken out the comments that are seeker-related comments, and then, okay, just
It's
so
already
that we
broken out.
know what has
Yep.
to be addressed right
Yep, yep,
away?
yep.
I mean, I think we have a pretty good idea. Okay.
And I'll add here that when I said about the SWIP earlier for the First Amendment, I should have added that Mr. Sotero did provide comments, I think, on Monday.
Yes.
So
we
those
have
need to
those.
be
Yep.
responded to,
Yes.
obviously, before you can get that going.
Our-
They didn't seem that big, but I should
Our
for the
expect-
record.
Our
We're
expectation was to
working
try
on
to
it
get
right
that,
now.
yeah,
Yep.
this week. We're going to try
Okay,
to get that out
great.
this week.
Just quick question on the SWIP and the stormwater.
Sure.
So these are obviously, some of the temporary measures will become permanent
Correct.
measures. And so, just so everybody understands, are the measures, because some of them grew beyond what the concept plan envisioned, are the sediment basins, the stormwater basins in the 150-foot setback, are those being constructed now, or those aren't necessary yet?
They're part of the clearing plan,
Okay.
because we're managing the sediment in those,
Okay.
so.
So just, everybody should be aware you're going to see clearing there.
Yeah, I sent a memo after Tad and I met with Larry to walk to see so the little tiny X's you see in the 150-foot buffer, those are trees that are flagged to be remaining. And as you recall my email sort of memo, they actually did a really nice job of not just preserving big trees, but also a variety of trees, so that there's different trees that you'd see in species. So in other words, it's not a monoculture, so if there's a disease, it won't kill everything. In addition, it's just like when Tad and I walked before the old Stop and Shop, when they used to have the Sleeping Beauty barrier of green. We went through with their arborists trying to figure out which trees could be saved, and Tad and I were like, okay, George of the Jungle, George of the Jungle. Everything is vined, it's all vined. So even some of the species, the larger trees that they have marked to be saved, will need a lot of attention because sometimes the grapevines are this big. I
Yeah.
mean, they're really
Yeah.
huge. Some of them have taken over the upper story. That's why there's a lot of trees in there that are dead because they couldn't get, they were choked out. So, but, and there's also, just as a reminder too, the trees that are located within the DOT right-of-way will not be touched. And there's a series of, I think, black pines and in through there. So you will see clearing, but that's, I think we all kind of acknowledge that's what it should be as opposed to the original farm fields, et cetera. So, but yes, thank you. Mr. Sotero, any comments?
Well, we, as you said, we did issue a SWIP amendment letter Monday, so, we'll work with you guys. We need to have an offline meeting, we'll have an offline, meeting,
I
whether,
think Chris has most of them done today. He just called me, so.
It was, just broadly, it was our expectation that we were going to try to get that to you before the end of the week. Yep, that was our goal.
okay, yeah, I don't know, I mean, I'm around, I think, 3 days next week, and, like Kyle, who typically looks at the details of it, I don't remember what his, I think he's around most of the week, so,
Good.
we'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out, okay. And I think we spoken to
So-
Tad about your schedule.
So in our conversation, the, original total area was, was around like 50 acres or something like that, but now I think you've decided to only do a certain amount now and then wait.
No,
or-
Well, we'll both jump in here.
or was there a
Well,
change?
I
Well-
mean, the intent is the approval for the entire thing.
Oh, yeah, right, of course.
By the time we get all contracts, awarded and out there, we're probably on the ground mid-January, somewhere around then. And so, the window's cut a little short. We have priority areas that we want to hit,
Right.
and if we're able to get beyond that, great.
Okay,
If not,
so-
at least we hit the,
If not, it'll be done
yeah,
next fall.
yeah.
The
exactly.
remainder.
I mean, I think it's everyone's
Exactly.
expectations to try to get done everything that's on the
Yeah,
plan.
it's going to be
I
approved.
understand what you're
just
saying. It's 5 acres at a
reality.
time,
Exactly.
5 acres at a time.
Five.
And your priority
right.
areas have to be some of the roadways
Exactly.
and
Correct.
City Winery because it's
Exactly.
your lead tenant.
Yeah.
Yep,
Yeah.
that's super priority.
Yes, I know.
And then the roads going up in,
Yeah,
that part of Main Street.
providing
Village Green.
circulation for the visitors who come there.
Yep, so.
So I will have Bonnie, my site plan comments by noon on Friday. I have a pretty good, start. Now, again, I'm looking at the engineering stuff. I'm not getting too heavy-duty into the water and sewer, because
Yeah.
that's going to be somebody else. I am looking at a couple things on, the laterals, because they affect, some other things, but anyways. So, and then as far as any seeker, related things, I had sent the consultants here a markup of the prior findings statement that the town board in 2021 did for the amended concept plan. We already talked about, the noise mitigation, and I know Jennifer sent something through late, today, and I think the gist of it was, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that you felt that the requirement for readings, noise readings before and during construction were more unique, I guess I'll use your words, to the hotel because of the bed and breakfast, and that you don't think that it's applicable for the rest of the development? Is that kind of the gist of it, or? And I'm not saying that like you're wrong, but maybe that's just something for discussion, maybe.
Yeah, I pointed out, first of all, that there was a unique condition that was noted in the findings relating, in the original 2007 findings and repeated in the more recent 2021 findings, that there was a unique condition at the southeast of the site where there was an operating bed
There
and
was concern
breakfast
at
right
that-
at
at that, right.
right at the east border, and plus a condition where there was rock clearing very near the boundary of the site.
Right.
Whereas the same findings note that in most of the site, the work is far away from anything else, and particularly this section, the village neighborhood, is probably one of the more centrally located areas. But my main point was that the findings include everything that was part of the neg deck for the hotel. They've been pulled into the overall document, and I think that the findings clearly empower the planning board to make whatever requirements it deems appropriate as part of each final development plan,
Okay,
site
that's
plan. So
fine.
it's
And
no
that
longer
makes
a
sense.
seeker
No, no,
issue,
no,
it's
that's
Right,
it's
that
a
makes sense.
factual.
So we
Planning
may-
board can still
section.
require this. if
So
it
we're
feels
going to want to
necessary.
probably look at, the language when we get into the seeker reaffirmation or whatever we're going to go call it, that we may want to add some, like, language to that effect, to clarify if we all agree with what Jennifer's saying.
That's why, at the last meeting, Larry had provided us on his cell phone, the areas of rock that they know will either need to be hammered or blasted, take your pick. So they've done that much of the geotech analysis. Yes, he followed up and sent it to us, I should add. So we know the areas that will probably make the most noise as a consequence. So I think what we should do is,
Yeah.
as we go through and get nearer the final development plan, evaluate whether we need to have those measures integrated into the process of starting construction, et cetera.
I
And that
think
would
we
apply to all future final development plans, as Jennifer pointed out.
We should make sure we cover all the possibilities, because, having done this for a lot of years, been involved with a lot of rock excavation, you never know rock. You could take like a boring here, you could take a boring right over at that closet and not find anything, and then right in between, there's like a peak. And believe me, we've had that happen before. And so, whatever. As long as we keep it, as long as we have something in there for the possibility of, even though you don't think it's going to happen, if it does happen, we don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, understood.
So,
That's why we're meeting,
We'll work it
after our
out.
agenda meeting,
It's
the
not
four
gonna
of
be-
us,
it's not
just to
gonna be a big
discuss
deal.
Okay.
these kinds of issues, because I
And
want to give you clear direction.
I want to just be clear also that there's a difference of whether or not this information needs to be in the seeker reaffirmation, or if it needs to be as a site plan as conditions.
it's
And I
site-
think what
we think
Jennifer's
it's site
saying is
plan.
it's a site
We think
plan
it's site
issue.
plans.
Yes, okay, I just wanted to make sure
No,
that
no,
we're all
because it's been
saying the
addressed
same
under
thing.
secret. The mitigation was that we have the ability to require that or
Correct.
not. That's
So it doesn't
basically
need to be readdressed
No,
in
no,
the
no,
secret.
it's just-
Right, and actually, if there are certain questions, many of them could be placed as a condition on the site plan approval and have to be answered to your satisfaction before it's signed, or be an ongoing condition, because Pete's
I mean, we have-
absolutely right. These are conditions that are going to develop in the field.
I mean, we didn't have any, and I think I asked Tad this at the last meeting, we didn't have any complaints based upon noise, rock excavation, when, the hotel was built. As we work further to, the north and incorporate more, background noise from Route 9 traffic, I think it's even going to be, I mean, of course, it's going to, be noisy, but it's not going to rise to the level of, it's going to be a, impact, I don't believe. So, again, we'll tweak, the reaffirmation, resolution.
We're just
You know,
going to, we're going to make a checklist that day, because
as we
it'll be
have.
our agenda meeting earlier, and we're going to have 2 members of the board with me, so we're going to go through, make a checklist of all the stuff that we think needs to be carried forward to the final development plan as potential conditions or issues.
Okay, I just want to make sure, because Pete's suggesting that we include it in the reaffirmation for seeker, and I think we're saying that it needs to be in the site plan, so I just want to make sure that we're all
Well,
agreeing
I just
where
think-
and when.
I just think we should, as long as everybody, on our side, agrees what Jennifer was saying, that the, before and during noise-like readings at critical points, if that was truly unique to the hotel work, and if okay.
Give some feedback.
That's all right. So, as long as everybody feels that, okay, what was in there, yes, that was just really for the hotel, but if we think, well, it could have been applicable to everything, then,
It
we may
appears
wanna
applicable
tweak
to
it.
everything is what,
It would be in the site plan.
Right, I think you should have all of
We
your
could do- we
team
could do like
review
both.
what
It's
the
no big
existing
deal.
findings say, and I believe that they give you the authority to do in this final development plan and every subsequent final development plan, anything you want to do to be very comfortable that you're controlling noise
could do it in
and
both.
rock clearing. And so it doesn't have to be anything put in the findings, because the existing findings, both the ones appended and brought in from the hotel neg deck and the ones that were put into the main text in 2021 are extremely thorough and very strong in the interests of the town.
I mean, we will be looking for secret with consistency.
Right.
So it will be addressed in that way,
Well,
saying
my
that we'll
colleagues
be.
on either side here are going to make
Yeah.
sure that that happens.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's two things. One is simply the findings point to certain things have to happen at final development plan. So now, here we are. So we have to make sure that whatever was spelled out in the findings that have to be addressed in the final development plan get integrated, to your point.
Yes.
The other part of it is, if there was a mitigation, and if, due to changes, that mitigation changes in some way, then I think it's good to memorialize that somehow in the, not in the findings, but in this, perhaps this consistency document. For example, I don't know if that bed and breakfast is still there. Is it still there? It's not
Something
there.
exists.
So if there's no bed and breakfast, then perhaps the consistency documentation goes into, there is no bed and breakfast anymore, and therefore, why are we doing all this noise mitigation, or there's no need to do this noise mitigation as it no longer exists, if that was clearly the
It
intent.
wasn't just the impact on the bed and breakfast, it's also
Right.
the residences. I believe Ms. Van Tal talked about that.
Right.
Because the residences on the south side of Dorsey were sensitive to that area as well.
Right, so some of it may, again, the consistency is going to address whether there have been changes, because some of the language, in as much as we all worked really hard to get that findings statement together by the end of last year, some of it's a little bit of a carryover from Baker, Gagne, findings, so,
Pierre would say Gagne, his brother would say Gagne.
but one way or the other, as Peter said, it'll get addressed. But really, the intent is to just make sure whatever secret mitigations are supposed to get integrated now happen as
Continue.
part of the final development plan.
So, thank you. Ms. Moss, comments? The Grinch doesn't speak. Ms. Polidoro, comments?
I mean, we're continuing the review of the mitigation, and I think everyone else has addressed
Thank you.
my concerns.
Let's start to my right with
Thank you.
Mr. Oliver. Comments on, any questions about all the procedural things we've been discussing, or comments on the architecture?
No comments on the procedural items. I am happy to hear if we're going to be able to work through the SWIP to get them into the land clearing phase for 2023. Comments regarding the architecture. I like the changes. My only negative comments, I think the multiple cupolas look a little busy. Maybe take two out and increase the size of the, just, I don't know, to me, it just looks like they're kind of put there, and maybe change, reduce or change the
Sure.
sizes of them, but
Okay.
other than that, I like it. I don't have many issues with it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms.
I just,
Dexter.
if I could,
Oh, yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to make one point noted to the board so that you are understand. The previous elevation that you saw for City Winery from the west side, if you were on Route 9 looking in, it actually looked like a three-story structure because the lower level, which is a functional part of the building, was exposed.
Could you
And
put
so-
it up? Do you have,
Yeah,
it in the I'm sure you have it somewhere in that laptop.
They've regraded, in other words.
Yeah, I don't
No,
have,
I just.
I don't have the
it'd be
site-
helpful if to go back and look.
you want to see the old one?
If you haven't.
I don't think we have it.
Okay.
Yeah, here.
Okay.
So I apologize.
walkout,
But what I
Yeah.
wanted to explain
Continue.
is that, I just wanted to explain that what we've done is, on that east side, the grade was really low, and what we've done is we've graded up to
West
the
side,
base
west side,
elevate.
West side.
Sorry, the west, did I say east?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. We've graded this area, and so on that hill overlooking City Winery between Route 9 and the building, there's going to be a vineyard, thank you. Just had to
I mean, below it.
Below.
on the hill. Yeah, next to it. So we took that exposed grade, and we're utilizing that now purposely to show the winery.
There's the old one, you can
Oh,
see
thank
the
you.
third floor look.
So previously, it was a walkout terrace or walkout basement, and so they didn't want to do that. They wanted up the hill with the vineyard in front.
And, you know, we think that that view, it was sort of overcome by the three-story appearance. You know, when you looked at the basement, it just overtook the building. And so this is better as far as massing and so forth. And we've added this stone feature on the on the southwest side, which is an interior porch for some wine tasting. So we really defined the entrance. So I wanted to explain that so you understood why it originally looked like a three-story building, and then now it's still 3 stories, but outside it's a 2-story structure.
Ann, any comments?
I would agree with my colleague over here. Procedurally, my heart goes out to all of you because there is so many moving parts here. But I have made a note to review the finding statement from last year because that's really going to be key to all of this. But it's very exciting because we're fine-tuning this to the point where we're getting so close. As far as the architecture, I always love to hear what my colleagues to the left of me, to the west of me say. But I do agree that I think that this looks a lot better. I've said this 100 million times, so, you know, at one point we were accused of being too Barney, and so we tried to kind of get away from that, but I think in this instance, with the overall theme of the, of the building here, that this is a much better fit. It looks more like a barn, and for those of us who go way back, and remember that behind the Ever-Ready Diner and the Pond Antique Center was a huge red barn. Huge red barn. And I kind of really like that this kind of picks up. That's what the first thing I thought of when I looked at this was, oh.
It's back.
Yeah. The only difference is it didn't have green on it. It had an old-fashioned red and white, right?
That's a treatment that we can talk about if you'd like. It's representative of the vine, so it's on the building.
Oh,
but we can certainly talk about that. But
I personally, but to me, this now sits better as far as a Hyde Park artifact.
Good.
And blends in much better with the overall theme of this development. So I thank you, but I really do agree about the cupolas. And when I think of the big red barn behind the Pond Antique Center, it had a very large central.
Yeah.
It was an old barn. It
where
needed
the roller
to have that
rink.
for the ventilation.
You remember,
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
seen
Where the roller
pictures,
rink
and
was.
that barn was used to help guide what was originally Malloy's Pharmacy.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
what the planning board referenced. Look at
okay.
you both. Oh!
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
That's what the planning board referenced, because
Yep.
I was going to the meetings during that
Yes,
time.
yes.
So-
I remember the
And
original
it was in the same plaza, so it was
Not
like.
that Malloy's.
Yes.
Original. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So thank you. I do appreciate that. It needs some fine tuning, but I feel like we're
Getting in a better
yeah,
direction.
Yeah, we're there.
Agree.
Can I make
Thank you.
another
Yes.
quick comment?
Yeah.
Just looking at it and thinking through again, if you could incorporate some sort of large rough cut timber to either the outside patio area or some sort of element to the stone features, I think the contrast would go really well and it would fit in with the look of the building and add some, depth to it.
Sure.
And it,
Texture.
maybe even if you can reuse some of the wood from the site, I know Tom likes doing stuff like that, it would be pretty cool.
Okay.
We have it ready to go.
Exactly. But
It's a good point, Chris. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Great ideas.
Ms. Wasser, comments?
Yeah, procedurally, I'm not overly concerned it'll all get worked out. I don't have any comments on that. That's kind of normal for something this big. I think it's been pretty amazing. Amazingly efficient, to tell you the truth.
Thank you.
On our end, anyway.
Yeah, okay. No, we agree.
Here's the halos over our heads. You have horns tonight.
Well, no, what that comment's about is just a constant, I need to clarify that because that did not sound very nice. On our end, meaning that there are so many iterations and it gets very confusing for us, for me, I'll speak for myself, that, some sheets get taken out, some get put in, and to me, there's a lot of piecemeal, and I understand the scope of this project, I do. But That's what I meant by my comment about it. But anyway, I'm sure we'll work that all out. And this is much improved. I agree with the cupola's comment. My colleague here on the left has actually sketched out a very large, beautiful, single cupola, and it's much improved, so thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Do you mean just at this meeting? I can
Yes,
see.
just now. We were whispering. and-
Before it was said. so
This
it
is
was
what I
good.
mean.
Mr. Waters,
Yes,
comments.
before it was said.
So, like I said, I think we're heading in the right direction. I think, some little tweaking and stuff, and I'm not sure, is there a fireplace? Is there going to be a chimney or
Yes.
something? So that would help too, because it might break up the expanse of that roof.
The chimney is right here.
It's on the west side.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's right
It's
here.
indoor, outdoor.
It's right here.
Oh, okay.
Oh, there, it- sorry.
Okay,
Okay.
so then, I'm sure they're gonna do it to code and stuff, so the height of it, it just needs to have some mass, because that's a big anchor point, and I think it'll help with the structure. I agree with the timber frame, because I think that would lend itself to more like a, pole barn feeling to it. And that's something that you would see in wineries and things like that, winery structures. I like the idea of the vineyard, idea, so that people could walk through it. And actually, it'd be a great photo op, for
Agree.
in there or something with a
Yes.
gazebo or something maybe, or something
Fitting,
like
very
that.
fitting.
That type of a thing. And just, my only concerns with things, and I'll look at it a little bit more, is just that, like a little depth. That's the only thing that I see. It's straightforward, except on the west side, which is the side that would be visible to Route 9, but on the interior side, just a little something. But that happens with the roof and stuff, so it might be taken, might be cleared up with the timber frame,
And landscaping.
idea.
Yep, and
So-
landscaping.
and landscaping and
Yeah.
things like that, so, and that the porch, I guess, is the patio in the back is
Yes.
gone now, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Yep,
Right.
now it's this
Okay.
stone area.
Yep, okay, so, that, like I said, it's definitely working in the right direction.
Good.
Thank you, Rob. Ann?
So, yes, I think the procedure's fine, you all got that taken care of. I was definitely in the camp of reducing the number of cupolas because it just felt really, really repetitive, and I like what Rob is doing, but it was just recently brought to my attention, this barn that has a number of them, and it looks just fine.
Yeah.
I like the
Too
single
busy?
better. All right. I like Rob's.
It's Southlands
Just
in
wanna-
Rhinebeck.
Yes, yes, yes.
Southlands,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, but you
Oh,
have.
interesting.
Yeah. But vastly improved, and just really, really happy. You're on the right track, so thank you so much.
Good, thank you. We appreciate all
Colleagues, you
the
made
help.
my job easy tonight by not asking, I really meant, did you have any questions about all the process? But if you don't have questions or comments, yay! So, happy days are here again. I think that we heard that there was a majority of individuals spoke about reducing the number of cupolas. I don't really have an opinion. That's not my forte. And you heard several people talk about adding the timber frames and to enlarge the central cupola. I think Rob was correct when he said it's a great idea for the vineyard, because it does give in the biophilic design, in the design guidelines, there was supposed to be a way to beckon you to come out into nature and come through. So if you get tipsy, you can just go out there and pick grapes. I'm just teasing when I said that, but it will make you want to go out there, I think, which is a good thing because it means people linger here. I do want to make sure everybody, our pointer doesn't work anymore on the screen, but the west elevation, if you look to the right where you see all the windows, and then to the left where it's red, that was a blank featureless area originally
Yeah. Right.
on the third floor. And that's, when I saw this, my first thought was, whoa, yes, great, because that, I think, was the biggest objection, because it's going to be the first building you see when you drive in, plus you'll see it from Route 9.
Right.
And I think it's very attractive now. And I, like Vice Chair Dexter said, and Vice Chair Oliver, this really does capture kind of the feeling of what used to exist in Hyde Park. And they're both from here, from way back when. So basically, that's my only other comment is congratulations on getting this far. And then we will work out procedurally what the next steps are. So Do you want us to continue the public hearing to the 18th or the 4th? Because we can meet without it being a public hearing, if you want to meet on the 4th.
Is there any reason why we can't close the public hearing, or we need to keep the public hearing open?
We're going to we can still keep getting new information from you, because the plans you're going to see there'll be a new plan set, trust me.
Okay.
So the public will have to have an opportunity to comment on that, and Jennifer's nodding, so.
We also, I think the applicant is prepared to talk about the recreation issues a little bit tonight, if you want them to start that conversation, or we can put it off to the next.
Do you want to start that conversation tonight?
No,
or
I
wait?
think we can gather our intel. There's been a lot of information that has been brought up.
And
so
this is all in the
this
memo,
was-
too.
Yeah, it was a little,
too.
I say this with no sort of like malice or anything, but it was late that we heard about this, so we apologize that we haven't been prepared. I'm not saying that that was something that was brought up late. It's been in the documents, so as you had said, there's so many moving parts, so there's things that keep coming around. We just want a few days, if we can, to revisit that issue. And
Jennifer also sent a memo that hasn't gone out to the rest of the board yet. I didn't have a chance to forward that I'd like to, but basically saying the planning board, once again, just like the noise mitigation, the planning board can say, and she quoted the language, and it does say that in there, that we're the ones who kind of control when these things need to happen. There should be a logic behind it, so if you're proposing, say, about a quarter of your total residential density, then that might be the time to say we need at least one of the parks that was put inside there, et cetera, with playground equipment, all that. As has been pointed out to me by our rec director, these are multifamily and don't have backyards or personal lawn space to recreate in. So the trails may not be what appeals to kids, et cetera, and that's sort of, that in the pickleball court, I should add, are most of the recreation there. So that'll be something that I think we're going to discuss that as well, and then, but you'll have a chance to respond to the memo first, because that's what's in there. And I think that's when we have the discussion on that.
And
to me.
we think that we have met a criteria, but it's all about expectations, as you had indicated, and so this board needs to be comfortable that we
Yeah.
have sufficient
But
recreational
again, I think
area.
it'll be better to have the discussion publicly once you have a chance to respond to the
Absolutely. Yeah,
memo.
yeah,
And the
yeah.
memo is available to the
Absolutely.
public as well. The memo and your response to it.
So that we're better prepared. So I think we would ask to defer the public hearing to the 4th.
Perfect.
So that we at least can keep coming,
Well,
even
I
if
was going to
it's-
say, we can still meet without a public hearing. I have to remind that to people all the time, because it just means that I have to reopen it. And, oh, by the way, are there any members of the public who'd like to speak about this application? Because I know everybody here, so I don't think that you're going to. So, okay, yes.
I had one, I'm looking at the site plan over there.
So defer to the 18th. Okay, so we're saying collectively that we're going to defer the public hearing to the 18th, but we will likely be before the board on
That's all I
On the
have.
4th,
Okay.
okay. And I just had a comment, I was looking over the site plan, and when I was looking at that, something that we discussed tonight about how we'll have the hotel, and City Winery is the first to go, and I'm looking going, okay, so if I'm staying at the hotel, and the only place I can get to is the City Winery, how am I going to walk there?
Yes, I think you had brought that up
And
at
I
the last
had, but
meeting. and
it was
yeah,
a
we're-
more generic, like getting to
The
Main
path.
Street. But now I'm like, a path would be just, again, and I know you're addressing it, but people like to walk, directly. and I
Absolutely,
know
we want to
it's-
make it easy.
Well, you don't want
Yeah.
them driving that close
No,
a distance.
exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
absolutely.
Yeah, so
And-
anyway, it was just a thought that I had that.
Sure.
It's also a good point, because remember, this is an extended stay Marriott.
Yes, yeah.
And although they have kitchens inside, there's not a restaurant on the main floor. So there is an area where they will serve, like, I think they said maybe hamburgers one night, or spaghetti one night, or something, and then they'll have breakfast. But there's not a restaurant per se, so if you don't want to eat what's offered there and want to not necessarily have to drive to wherever, this will be a prime place to go.
Absolutely.
So we want to make sure there's an easy path for them. So at any rate, making a motion to adjourn this to January 18th.
So moved?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, guys, and you're welcome to stay. We'll be having our holiday celebrations shortly, if you'd like.
Thank you, everyone, and have a happy holiday.
Thank you,
Same
too.
to you.
See you next year.
The next item on the agenda is site plan waiver. This is a request to approve and enlarge a deck. This is located at 26 Hyler Drive, which is in the statewide area of scenic significance. It's not directly visible, and Ms. Moss has recommended that we waive site plan review. Anybody have any questions?
No?
Ms. Walsh will introduce this resolution.
Stephen Koch, 26 Hyler Drive, Hyde Park, New York, site plan waiver. Town Code Section 108-9.4C2, December 21st, 2022, Resolution 2022-63. Whereas, now therefore be it resolved that the Town of Hyde Park Planning Board hereby waives site plan requirements for the file entitled Koch Stephen regarding the specific request received October 17th, 2022, and as identified in the building permit application dated October 3rd, 2022.
Second?
Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. The next item on the agenda is a sign permit recommendation for a freestanding sign. For me, this is exciting. As you all know, the former Texan loves to have as many Mexican options as he can get. And we have La Catrina coming in, which there's apparently other
Another one.
sister restaurants. And this is actually owned by a local family, Hyde Parkers. I
Nice.
got a chance to meet the gentleman who's operating this the other day, coming in for the sign permit. I have to give Ms. Moss credit because she was very creative in discussing how to make the sign code compliant, because she basically walked him through several times, inch by inch, what got changed. But it looks great. Ms. Weiser immediately commented to me, look, it's Frida Kahlo. So, but the exciting thing
Mexican
is
Day of the Dad.
we have a new business going in where there's been an empty building. This is going to the location of the former Hyde Park Brewery and Steakhouse. So it's always nice to have a new business come back in. Yeah.
I have a question because I went by it today, and in the upper windows, Katrina is spelled out in each window. And so I just want to make sure that's colorful. It's like that a film has been put on each window, very colorful, and it's spelled out, and I want to make sure there's no conflict that that's a sign.
Uh-oh. Tab will have to investigate. Tab will have
So
to
just,
investigate.
that's what I'm saying, I don't want to give them heartburn.
There is a provision for window signs, but
Well, each window has a letter.
I know the provision.
It's the,
It cannot block more than 60% of the window, of the glazing. However, there's also 25%, sorry, however, 6 square feet, that's where I got the 6.
so I
But
just
you-
raise it to make sure nobody else,
letter
everything's
heights,
okay.
Letter heights. Letter heights. The
Sure.
letter heights on this sign are
All
code compliant. Yes. Anybody have any other comments or questions? Rob, this is yours.
Resolution recommendation for issuance of sign permit pursuant to Town Code, Section 108-24.3A, La Catrina Mexican Restaurant, 4076, Albany Post Road, Hyde Park, New York, freestanding sign. Resolution 2022-67. Whereas, be it resolved that the board hereby recommends the zoning administrator issue the sign permit for La Catrina Mexican Restaurant as submitted by Ronald Van Tyne on December 12, 2022.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Now we come to an always exciting part of the evening for those of us who've been doing this for a while. We get to reappoint our wonderful planning board consultants. I want to thank each of you again, all of you, including those in the audience who work for one of our consultants, for all your hard work and perseverance this year, because Bellafield has felt like it's needed a lot of perseverance.
Very efficiently. Thank you.
So it's traditional that Ann and I do these. So the first resolution is 22-D, and I urge its adoption. Whereas the planning board wishes to engage Clark Patterson Lee, or CPL, for engineering, planning, and other relevant services, et cetera, and now therefore be it resolved, the planning board hereby authorizes the chairperson to sign said contract to engage CPL for the year 2023.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And Mr. Oliver, no, Vice Chair Oliver is abstaining because even though I hope fervently he'll be reappointed, he can't vote because we're not positive he will be appointed next year. But I think so, Chris. Have you heard anything?
I have not heard anything.
Okay. The next resolution is 22-E, a resolution to appoint Nelson Pope and Vuris LLC as planning consultants for 2023. Whereas, now therefore be it resolved that the planning board hereby authorizes the chairperson to sign said contract to engage Nelson Pope and Vuris LLC for the year 2023.
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
With one abstention. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is Resolution 22-F to reappoint Rodenhouse and Shaw Polidoro as legal consultants for 2023. Whereas, now therefore be it resolved that the planning board hereby authorizes the chairperson to sign said contract to engage Rodenhausen Shaw Polidoro for the year 2023.
Second.
Any further discussion?
I can resend it.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
With one abstention from Vice Chair Oliver. Next to last item, the town board requested a comment from, I hadn't known that it actually was, the language was in there, but if there's a request for a reduction of the renewal of building fee, it needs to have comments by the building inspector as well as the planning board. As I recall, the last few times this was requested, the last town board, I just said, I don't think they referred to it, they just said no. I personally thought that there was a compelling answer reasoning put in there. They estimated the hourly charge for our building inspector to be about $100 an hour, which I sent follow-up questions, just so everyone knows, and it was really sort of just a rough estimate. It was a middle fee for what an engineer would charge per hour, because they didn't divide Mr. Westermeyer's salary by 52 by 40, which would give you the hourly. But it seems still reasonable, and it looked as though they have so little left, they didn't want to pay the final building fee. That noted, I don't really think this is our business. I personally don't want to do either, make any kind of recommendation, but that is up to, no, that's up to the board. I just want to hear from all of you, so let me start from my left. Ann?
So you don't think we should be?
I just feel like it's not really, I mean, we
because
can
it's
weigh
not our-
in, but we don't set the fees or anything. We never do any of that, so.
Well, that makes sense.
I mean, the town board will make up its own mind. It's just it's our recommendation on it, positively or negatively.
It seems like they would like some advice.
They probably would. So if you guys want to say yes, that's what I was saying. I'll just
I
write the
would-
letter to say yes.
Yes, I would
Okay.
say yes.
Rob?
I'll follow in,
Okay.
say yes.
Stephanie?
I definitely would say yes.
Okey-doke. And Ann?
I would have to say no. I think it would set actually a not a good precedent. This has come up before in the past with other town boards, and it opens up a huge can of worms, because then every single applicant for any building permit then feels that they can go to the town board and request. It's never been done before. I don't want the planning board to take on duties that it is not otherwise
That's
responsible for.
interesting.
And
Interesting.
I just think it would be a very bad
Can
precedent.
we revote?
You haven't voted, I didn't ask for a vote.
It's never been done before.
They have waived building permits for not-for-profits in the past.
That
Okay.
stopped
But
as
not
well at the
us.
last town
Yeah,
board.
but not-
We didn't make a recommendation on
Yeah.
it.
Correct, I'm just saying.
Okay.
But the planning board didn't recommend one way or the other on it.
That's a good point, Ann.
Chris?
If it's never been done before, I
Yeah,
would be
what-
hesitant to set the precedent
Right.
right now.
This is
I
why
don't know
love-
that,
This is
so-
why I love having these discussions, because I believe Ann's correct. That's why I
that
didn't really
sounds-
want to
Yeah,
do it, but I
yes.
always defer to the group.
Okay,
their judgment.
no, so
But I was
then,
looking at that, like, every application is its own application, no matter what. So precedent.
yeah.
Chris, you have any comments?
I would agree with Ann as well. In my time here, I don't recall our board ever having input on this, and I don't necessarily believe it's, within the purview of the board.
So are you suggesting that we actually give no input?
We
or an
basically say
answer?
we take, we, just like,
Silent.
yeah, whether
Take no
we
position.
recommend you rely on your own study of the facts as permitted. That's the letter I would write.
I'm
We
okay with
recommend
that.
you
So,
rely on your
since
study of
we're
the facts.
newbies and you are all-seasoned veteran on that end over there.
On the east side.
Yes, yes, I mean, yeah.
Take your lead, thank you.
We will take your lead on this, so.
Seasoned veterans. over there. Okay, so. Making a motion to authorize me to send a letter to the town board recommending that they rely on their own study of the facts.
Second.
I just need a motion, so
Oh,
Stephanie moves.
so move it.
And I would just, could we add that the reason is that we.
Don't want to
we
set a
don't
precedent?
want-
Yeah.
We don't.
I can certainly.
It's not our
that this would-
wheelhouse.
I want the word setting a precedent.
I
That
think
I don't
that-
want them
yeah.
to come back to us for
So,
any of them.
They won't be making a decision on this until January the 18th, or January 23rd, because they have a reorganization meeting on the 3rd, but they have nothing on the agenda except for the reorganization. So I can actually write the letter and we can all review it. You know what, I don't need a motion, let me just write the letter and I'll send it, we can vote on it on January 4th, how's that?
That works.
There you go.
Okay, I feel like I just did that. We can put on a musical like My Dad Has a Barn. Second to, well, nearly the last thing, There, for the public who might still be viewing, we were supposed to have what's commonly called a balloon test, but a visual impact analysis done for a cell tower that's proposed at roughly at the south west corner of Dorsey and Route 9, or not Dorsey, sorry, St. Andrews and Route 9G. That was called off because of allegedly inclement weather. I didn't see a bit of wind.
No, it was
In
beautiful.
the morning it was.
Oh, early in the morning, that's
Yes,
why, okay.
they can't set it up.
So at any rate, the next date has been scheduled for January 7th from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. That's a Saturday as well. Also, I just want to inform a few people about this, even though, because we think we should have it discussed publicly. But I believe Victoria has spoken to the ZBA attorney. All of you were aware, because I sent it over to you, that the Zoning Board of Appeals denied the variances requested by Camp Victory Lake. That would be a height variance as well as a stream incursion into the 100-foot corridor on either side of the stream. So in talking to Victoria today, it appears that variances in ZBA actions are a little bit different than what our decisions would be. So if there's an affirmative resolution, meaning that it gives you the reasons for why in support of granting the variance, and then that fails, which this did on a 3-to-1 basis, that is actually considered a non-action, if I'm correct. Is that right? Non-action?
Yeah, if a motion to adopt fails, yes, it's a non-action. It becomes a default denial after a period of time.
After a period of time. So the ZBA would have 62 days in which to rewrite a resolution that would have affirmative reasons for denying, and they could re-vote on that and pass it, which would...
I will say that's my interpretation, but the zoning board has separate counsel.
Right. So I'm giving you Victoria's interpretation. In addition, if no action is taken after the 62 days, then it's automatically a denial. So everyone was asking sort of, are there things we can do about it? And basically, no, because the project before us relied on those approvals for those variances, in other words, before we can approve it. So we can't approve something that doesn't have, they'd have to redo the project.
Unless they come in with a smaller steeple and move, right, they'd have to pull those elements of the project in order for you to move forward.
So we will, I think, be hearing from Mr. Sander. He did it in an email to Tad, me, and the chair of the ZBA, asking for a meeting, but because it's possible that there would be litigation, I don't think that's advisable, unless we have our counsel present too, et cetera. So, but I'll keep everybody posted about this, just because I know that we've all put a lot of time and effort into that application.
Do they have to come in full compliance, Victoria? Or could they come in, like, say they're 4 foot higher and allow for a variance for the 4 foot overage?
It can't be higher. It would have to be lower, I think.
They can modify their request and reapply for variance.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. So just want to make sure that everybody stayed informed. Otherwise, make it a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Thank you Supervisor Tergiani and the town board for providing the resources to televise and air this. And thanks again, colleagues. Let me go get some notes.